Canada, we didn't have a patient with proven Ebola, but we did have at least 3 people coming in here where there was a question mark. It was tested. We learned a few things, as everybody else would have, regarding about, out of hours results, because the laboratory is not here for Ebola testing, transport of specimens. So we learned. But I think on the whole we did pretty well in terms of how we handle it.
Ebola is just the latest of disease outbreaks all over the world. With the death toll reaching 4,877, it is no wonder the world was brought into national panic. Though this is happening halfway across the world, it begs the question, how prepared are we in the UK for deadly disease outbreaks? Jamie Lee Healy was diagnosed with Clostridium difficile when she was 15 years old. She had gone into hospital for a toenail removal and faced a disease which had killed 1,646 patients in 2012. She now has 3 children, but with C. diff remaining incurable, her future with them is not secure.
I was 16 weeks pregnant, and that was the same again. I went in hospital with pain. I was in over about a week. They sent me home just saying it was to do with the pregnancy and they couldn't do anything else. And then over that weekend I deteriorated and ended up being out of it, and then I had to phone the ambulance. And I just weren't awake at all. I was out of it, and that's when they diagnosed me with C. diff again and said it'll keep coming back. They was telling me I had to abort my baby, and they said if I didn't I'd die, and that I was being an unfair mother if I didn't do it. But I said I'd rather die than abort my baby. I'd rather us both die that way. And luckily in the end it worked out.
We just thought that Jamie Lee had a sore toe and she was getting treated for that, but it went on for so long, and then she started getting tummy problems and everything, and we was just totally in the dark really. We didn't have a clue. We'd come back from, Jamie Lee had been having a scan, and we'd come back to the ward and all her stuff had gone off her bed. There was nothing there, bed was empty, and we was like, and they've had to, oh, you've been put in the side room, and all the stuff had been literally through in a side room. Not put away, just everything thrown on the bed, and they're like, you can't come out of here. And we're like, why? And they said, oh, she's got some disease, it's infectious, and infectious diseases, people will be in touch with you. And we was like, didn't have a clue.
Professional viewpoints are mixed on how to prepare, or whether indeed we are prepared for diseases.
I think the UK is fairly prepared, but there are limitations in how we can be prepared depending on what we're talking about. If you're talking about Ebola, then I think we're reasonably well prepared because it's not considered to be a major threat to the UK. And there are reasons why that is the case, mainly around how it spreads, because it spreads largely with contact, and people are only contagious at the time when they've got symptoms, so you don't have the case of somebody not knowing they're ill. So that means it's less of a risk to us than, say, swine flu was, which was, if it had happened, would have been or could have been catastrophic.
Well, from what I remember, I was sort of like quite young, so all I remember is like being violently sick quite a lot, and like 1 minute I'd be cold and then another minute I'd be really hot.
At one time, swine flu threatened to kill thousands in the UK. For those affected, it's still remembered as a dark time and a lesson for the future.
Seek medical advice as quick as possible, really. Like I say, I am a bit lax with, not that I don't care about my children being ill, but I do tend to try and let them ride out most illnesses. But if there is something going around, a bit like when the meningitis scare was out, just get advice straight away. There'd been a lot of it on the news, so I was a bit concerned, and as soon as he started looking a bit like sleeping all the time and he looked a bit pale and he was all hot and clammy, I thought, I think I need to get him to the doctors quite quickly, whereas normally I'd probably just let it ride it out, if you know what I mean.
Where some saw disaster, others saw it as an opportunity to make a profit. Sian Rogers took part in a research trial of Ebola that paid for her trip to Florida.
My mum thinks I'm crazy. She was like, are you sure you know what you're doing? And I was a bit like, yes, Mum. I've always said that I would donate blood or like give my organs and donate my body to medical science once I've died, because I think it's really important. Like, it doesn't matter if one person here dies. Like, if I could save like the lives of like hundreds of people in Africa, so or not even there. Like, say this virus came to England, it's saving the lives of like hundreds of people. Like, and if there are any long-term effects, like, you're gonna die one day anyway. Like, might as well go out of the bang.
Going off, maybe it's about another infection. Sorry, I've got to take this. Is that all right?
That's fine.
All right, fine.
Dr. Ian Hussein specialises in the prevention of such diseases. However, Ebola introduced a whole new protocol.
Patient is alerted, coming in. We'd have we had a point of contact in the ED department where the patient would be looked at, cared for. Our staff were trained in personal protective equipment. They're trained anyway, but again, you're up-speccing because we don't put on a particular type of visor for every patient contact. So with Ebola, you would. And of course, it has to be a particular level to prevent, breathing the virus in and so forth.
Many people from the UK volunteered to give aid in any way they could.
My mum, my sister and I created a charity called CHT, which is the Community Health Trust. The main goal of this charity was not to bring aid to thousands, it was to fulfill the prerequisites that the World Health Organization needs to go and start manning and maintaining small villages here, then, everywhere. They would like to maintain them all, but financially it'd be impossible. So they set a checklist for other charities to fulfill, and then they can go in and maintain it. So what my mum, my sister and I focused on doing was to build 3 mini hospitals in 3 villages, McKenney, Rochen and Petit Fou, and gave them solar power, a full-time nurse to man them, and a fridge to which to store the medical supplies in. And that is all the World Health Organization needs to go in there and start supplying them with medical supplies and the like.
For people like Jamie Lee, C. diff will be a constant part of her life, introducing great risks. So with diseases such as this still being a risk to those on our front doorstep, will the UK ever truly be ready for an outbreak?
I had so many arguments with Dr. Jamie Lee Johnson. I'm like, I always say on her notes, there's probably saying warning of mother, but she's my little girl and it's really stressful.
There's no cure for it, is there?
No. Just removing a bowel, I think, is eventually what they're going to do into the long-term thing for removal. But we don't even want to go there yet because that brings on even bigger problems.
You already said what my life expectancy is, 40
something, weren't it?
Yeah. I don't think they will, Barbara.
So, are we ready? I think we can probably up-spec very quickly when something strikes. I think we're not as ready as we should be for a creeping pathogen that can just get into the system, because that's a function of how strong we are in hygiene as an economy. And that, I think, is not strong enough.